saying remembering the Lord at the final exam of life or something like that, the final test of life. So, can you join Zoom? Zoom. And just to present some things. If we can. So this idea of remembering the Lord at the time of death will only make sense if we understand what this life that we are leading, where is it leading to? The life that we are living, where is it leading to? If we have some understanding about it, then probably it will make sense. Otherwise, it will definitely not. So the endeavor that we will have, of course, I'm sure you all are aware that, is my screen visible now? Can you see? Okay. So the title is Remembering Krishna at Life's Final Exam. Right, we have got so many memories since the time we have taken birth. Memories of studying, memories of being with our near and dear ones, memories of visiting some nice place, memories of giving birth to another life, and so on and so forth. So, what is the important aspect of remembering the Lord at the final time, right? The final exam. That's what we would like to focus. Bhagavad Gita is a treasure, is a storehouse of wonderful wisdom which is shared. And it was not only meant for Arjuna, it's meant for all of us to take advantage. So before I go and share some of the things, I thought the life that we live, it revolves around these two things. All of us, we seek happiness, we chase after happiness. And if there is a definition of distress, whatever that may be for each one of us, we try to avoid that. That's what our life goes around. I mean, starting from being a child to a grown-up person, an adult, until the time you die, we chase after this. I mean, today is Wednesday, day after tomorrow is Black Friday. So we will be chasing some things, and we would like to have those items with us, and we feel once we have those items with us, we'll be happy. But what happens is, in the process of this chase for happiness, when we occasionally experience the distresses are so mind-boggling, or they're so bummer, like, they just jeopardize us. They just make us feel, they're how unfair and how troublesome this life is when we go through those experiences of distress. And the happiness that we are chasing after in life, those happiness, even though we experience, they're all fleeting. They don't last. Right? And the chase of happiness, though we always have a hope of continuing to experience that eternally, it doesn't last. It is fleeting. And the distresses make our life miserable. So keeping these two things in mind, if we really want to become emotionally, what is it that can help me to have an emotional well-being? Right? Because after all, Bhagavad Gita is, if we treat it as just a wisdom book which was shared 5,000 years back by the Lord with certain do's and don'ts, and I don't see the relevance of it in my life, I will not apply them. So that's why when we live our life, we have to see how we are living. Yes, we live life chasing happiness, but distresses which we don't want, they come, and when they come, they unsettle us. And the happiness that we experience are fleeting. Right? That's it. That's the nature of the world. That's how this material world is designed and orchestrated. So then what do people do? And actually this is quite startling. And when you share this with people, people feel little, taken away. Because most people, when you open your phone, you go outside billboards, you open media, you open anything, the information is anything that is coming to your mind, Anything that your mind is giving some desires, any desires which are coming, instantly go for it, fulfill it, right? So you want to feel, you want to have some nice whatever gadgets or some things. You want to go and have party. Don't constrain yourself. After all, there's just one life, so might as well do it. And we keep trying that and keep doing that, but ultimately, the more and more we try to fulfill those materialistic desires which are produced in the mind, the more we feel shallow, the more we feel hollow, the more we feel emptiness. Maybe we're sleeping in the night, you go to bed and you feel loneliness, emptiness, and you feel, what is it that I'm trying to achieve? The material world, people, they live life. Of course, most of them don't even bother what kind of life they live or how do they live. But the kind of lifestyle people have, they can be broadly classified into two categories. One is a life which is based on materialistic viewpoint. The other one is a spiritualistic viewpoint. But the people who are living their life, the so-called normal life, they don't even understand that they're living a life based on materialistic concept of life. And what is the materialistic concept of life? Materialistic concept of life means I accept my body to be matter. And the thoughts that are going on in my mind, I relate to them and I associate with them, and I think these thoughts are mine and I am meant to fulfill them. I never think that I am a spiritual living entity. That is the spiritual way of living life. I never think that I am a spiritual living entity trapped in this temporary body for a temporary sojourn called life. It will all come to an end. There is no permanent shelter here. There is no permanent happiness here. That is a different kind of an understanding which people don't get it. And it's not easy to get that either. So what people go after? They go after those thoughts which are coming. I must fulfill. I must chase. I must endeavor. I must work hard. I'll go after them. And if I go after them, if I go on chasing happiness, I will get happiness. So that's why there are a lot of titillation, stimulation. You indulge in this, you indulge in that, maybe this park, this theme park, this movie, that movie. The more the titillation, the more the mind gets at least some kind of distractions from his busy life, from his so-called day-to-day life, the drudgery of the life, the burden of living a normal life, that distracts him, and that distraction appears to be happiness. But as I said, this is fleeting. This doesn't satisfy. Actually, it makes us more agitated and disturbed inside. And the more we feel so many things I'm lacking. Even if a person has got all the means, money and power to enjoy his senses to the fullest, he still remains unsatisfied. But whole life goes on in this pursuit. There's no one who's there to tell us. And when you speak about this, it's also very difficult to accept when somebody doesn't have a spiritual background. They feel taken aback and somebody is saying something which is contradictory to their viewpoint, or which is contradictory to what they have got as certain notions and beliefs. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, I find this verse very amazing, very, very interesting. In 2nd chapter, Krishna mentions this verse. He says that this spirit soul, some look on the soul as amazing, some describe the soul as amazing, and some hear of the soul as amazing, while others, even after hearing about the spiritual being, cannot understand him at all. So one should not be, not everybody is prepared or ready to even take this. So that's why even Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself is telling that some look on the soul as amazing, some describe the soul as amazing, and some hear of the soul as amazing, while others, even after hearing about the spiritual being, cannot understand him at all. It's very difficult to figure it out and to understand the true constitutional position. I've shared this earlier. We go to Akshay Patra, we serve some meals to a prison in Bangalore, apart from the school children that we feed. We used to. I think it is stopped now. So, one of the devotees who goes there regularly, when he had some conversation with this so-called dreaded criminals, he'd ask them, did you ever plan to be here? Did you plan that one day you would end up here? So most of the people say no. Then how did this happen that you have ended up here? And this question kind of opens up a lot of new dimensions of thinking which people otherwise don't think. And what is that? People often don't see a connect between the cause and the effect. Whatever effect you are having, whatever you are going through in life, there is a cause behind it. And not knowing that, or not able to connect the effect with the cause, they think life was just like that. So you ask somebody, how did you end up here? Maybe, he had a plan of robbing the bank, and at the right opportune moment, he thought that he has made it, he has looted the bank, he was about to get into the car, somebody just knocked him down. He thought the life will be fantastic after that, but ends up in a jail. So the choices that we make in life, the actions that we perform, based on those choices that we are making, has a severe ramifications. Very severe ramifications. Long back when I was working as a software engineer, if you write a wrong code, you're a software engineer, right? So you write a wrong code, right? You expect that, some Fibonacci series, I'm just giving some old days one, something to come up, and you have written a wrong code. So, but natural, you'll get some garbage. So that's what they say, garbage in, garbage out. You put rubbish thing inside you, and rubbish thing will only come out. So not understanding the spiritual nature of our, not understanding the spiritual identity, not knowing this fact that every effect has a cause, and looking for happiness in this constant titillation, right? Where people are seeking that, well, I'll do this. You just, increase the social, just increase those, how I can amplify those methods or means of fulfilling my desires. People end up becoming more frustrated. People end up becoming more empty. People end up becoming more lonely, and they have only memories, or they have only these things of some shallowness, frustration, and know this thing about the real happiness. So that's why the exam, whatever the final test of remembering Krishna comes much later. Even see how you are living your life. So the spiritual method is very different. If you want to experience spiritual happiness, the process is, the path is not by thriving on some titillation. No. It is rather becoming cognizant and aware of those emotions which are produced in your mind, keeping them away, being an observer, looking at them from a distance. Every thought which comes in our mind is not supposed to be fulfilled. We get so many emotions, often when we go through, we don't realize that they are actually useless. One such emotion could be anger. There is nothing in this world that you can achieve by becoming angry. But at the same time, you may feel that I'm completely helpless when that emotion comes. And if I don't express that, I feel as if I'm helpless, or I'm just losing out, and we express that. But when a person becomes spiritually aware, spiritually more matured, understands that this body, which includes the gross covering which we can see, and the mind, are just subtle covering. He has got nothing to do with it, right? And instead of endeavoring hard for fulfilling those material desires, he takes control over his mind. He takes control over his thoughts. Then the spiritual muscles get developed. These are all real life things, right? So that person, his behavior, his conduct, his search or his pursuit for happiness will be in a very different things. He'll not go for this rat race of material competition and trying to grab, exploit, and so on and so forth. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, when they talk about happiness, there are 3 kinds of happinesses which are given. we've been discussing Bhagavad Gita. We've been reading, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. and we've been discussing the very precarious but very superlative impact of the modes of material nature which are acting on us. So if you want to understand this, if you have a little curiosity about understanding the helplessness of your own self, sometimes we think that we are doing everything by our own desire. Some desire has come in my mind and I'm trying to fulfill, I'm doing an action to fulfill that. I'm in control of my life. Not true. How? Very nicely in Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, 22nd verse, Krishna says, Purusha prakriti sthohi, bhunkte prakriti jayar guna, karana guna sangasya sadasadyoni janmasu. Very nice verse. So what has happened is the spirit soul, that's all of us, who are eternal, living entities, we have been placed in the midst of Prakriti. Prakriti is the material nature, and Purusha Prakriti Sthohi. The spiritual living entity has been placed in this material nature, and this material nature is consisting of three modes: Sattvas, Rajas, and Tamas. Purusha Prakriti Sthohi Bhunkte Prakriti Jayar Guna. Since we are placed in this material nature, we are actually eternal, we don't belong here, but we've been placed here. So we are developing a desire to enjoy this material nature. I want to exploit this for my thing. Right? And where does this desire come from? Because of the association that I'm having with the modes of material nature. Somebody who's in mode of Sattva-guna, he has a different way of experiencing happiness. Somebody who's coming in the mode of passion, in association of the mode of passion, he has got a different ways of experiencing happiness or a different understanding. And somebody who's coming in the mode of ignorance, in association with that, he's got a different understanding of experiencing happiness. So that is why I said that there are different modes of, different kinds of happiness. Bhagavad Gita puts it in three different ways. Actually, the lowest one is happiness which is born out of the mode of ignorance. Not worth mentioning, I'm not even putting up that verse, but imagine someone like who's an alcoholic, who's an addict to something. The only thing that he's looking is the bottle, the next bottle, maybe the next needle, so that he can go for that substance use. And that's what can give them happiness. There is nothing else. Mind is racing, uncontrolled, and with a single pointed this thing that I want that. That will only give me happiness. Happiness in the mode of passion, it is actually the happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. So the contact of the senses with their objects, when the senses come in touch with the sense objects, we experience some happiness, no doubt. And it appears very nectar. Some relationships, some things that we indulge, nobody's watching us, we take the phone, we want to see certain things, we want to smell certain things, we want to touch certain things, we want to hear certain things. That is giving me pleasure. That looks like happiness at the beginning, nectar at the beginning, but it is actually poison at the end. Sometimes people realize this when they indulge in that kind of a happiness for some time. They get a feeling that I'm done with this. Oh my God, I just want to get out of this place. I don't want to. They express that. That is the happiness in the mode of passion, right? Which is nectar at first, but poison at the end. And there is another kind of happiness which Krishna mentions, which appears like at the beginning maybe poison. It's difficult, but the end is just like nectar. And what else happens? Which awakens one to self-realization and is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness, which awakens one to a state of self-realization. Very important thing. Because the moment you become aware that you are this spirit soul living in this temporary body with no permanent shelter and no permanent happiness, then all the emotions which are coming in your mind, you don't give them that importance. You don't give them that due importance. It's because in our mind, these thoughts, these emotions that I have got, I'm giving them undue importance. They have become so powerful. I will just become, like the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called Observing the Armies in the Battlefield. You'll just observe them. You'll not give your power of attorney to them. You'll You'll not give them so much of power that they're so important. Oh, that person didn't speak to me. He didn't recognize me. What's going on? These thoughts are coming. All that you will learn in life is, I must tolerate. I must tolerate. This is a very powerful verse which Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita in the beginning. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, they will come and go. Some things will be there. And their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Quite a radical thinking compared to the conventional so-called mainstream ideas of going after anything that comes to your mind, putting all endeavor, chasing after it. This is just tolerate. You don't have to necessarily respond to these thoughts because they are coming. They will come and go. Learn to tolerate. Tam stitikshasva bharata. What will happen if you learn to tolerate? The next verse it says, O best among men, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Mind you, liberation doesn't mean any fancy this thing in our mind. Liberation means one becomes aware of his true self. He becomes aware of his unending, undying, eternal nature, which has got nothing to do with this material body. That's what it is. So when you tolerate, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Actually, liberation means self-realization. So that is why, what are we investing in our life? And what investment we are making, where is it leading us to? The so-called conventional mainstream life that we have been taught to live with a hope that I will become happy one day is actually futile. Right? I want to live happily ever after, but there is no question of happiness and there is no question of ever after. There is just some promise. People try doing different things, this way, that way, and just because they are conditioned and there are more and more options which are available, they don't cease, they don't stop, and they continue doing in a futile endeavor. Bhagavad Gita's this thing brings a very different perspective. It says that a person who's not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires. Desires will come. So many desires are there, but one should not be disturbed. That enter like rivers into the ocean. If you imagine an ocean where there are so many rivers which are flowing from different directions, all the rivers ultimately end in ocean. But the water level of the ocean doesn't rise just because so much of inflow of water is there. Ocean remains still. Like that, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. Very revealing. Not a person who strives to satisfy such desires. But most people are chasing. They are after this business of going after this. I want this, I want that, I want this. Because, why? How did you get that? Because of association with the modes. I'm seeing different people are having that. And there are different propaganda, different advertisements which says if you have this, your life will be very, very this thing. So this is the interesting aspect of Bhagavad Gita, or the spiritual knowledge, which talks about a very beautiful concept which is called Atma Ram. The word Atma means self, and Rama means who is satisfied within the self. He doesn't need any external validation, external chasing. He does not go after anything. He is experiencing happiness within. And that state is not something which can only be attained by a few chosen ones with very high intellectual abilities or very high levels of intelligence. No, it can be attained by every one of us because it's our spiritual nature which needs to be uncovered. Right now, because of the covering, we are not able to experience that. But the process of uncovering can happen to all of us to the degree that uncovering happens to the degree we understand we are spirit, soul, eternal, our pursuits, our purpose, the meaning of life will completely change. Ganji, you're from Lucknow, right? You went to Allahabad also to study with me for a few days, and then you went to Kanpur. In North India, if you go there in winter time, you'll see there will be a lot of fog. I don't know if you have experience in South India, sometimes maybe. Right? So what happens is when you see there is a dense fog, you can't even see that there is a parking lot, which cars are parked, which color, what make. It's just fully fog, hazy. You can't see anything. But as soon as the sun rises, it dissipates the fog. Maybe the sun is not even, at its full strength. It has not risen like fully. But even that sunshine, when it comes, as the sun appears in the horizon, you can see that the fog is dissipating, is evaporating, and you can see things clearly. Something like that. Currently, the fog of ignorance has covered us about our true self. We're not able to perceive who we are. And we are associating very strongly with body and our mind. And but natural, we are disturbed. But natural, we feel the sense of incompleteness. And but natural, we go through so many struggles. As Krishna puts it very nicely in Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivamsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha mana shashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karsati. Actually, we are eternal fragmental parts of the Lord. Mamai vamso, mama eva. All of us, we are certainly mama eva amsa. Amsa means fragmental parts of, but we are eternal. Mama eva amsa, mama eva amsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. We are eternally his parts and parcel. Mana shashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karsati. Because we are identifying with our five senses, and the sixth one being our mind, because everything revolves around this mind, karsati prakriti sthani. We are going through this horrible, terrible material sufferings. Karsati. So then what is the solution? What has to be done? I mean, I brought it to this perspective or understanding. The very word which Bhagavad Gita repeatedly uses, called yoga, is the science of re-establishing our relationship with the Lord. We are eternal, the Lord is eternal. Not just these two are eternal, our relationship also is eternal. So I am eternal, I am eternally part and parcel of that Lord who is eternal, and I have an eternal relationship with Him. Yoga is the science of re-establishing that lost relationship that we all have with the Lord. Yoga is not about wearing some yoga costume with a yoga mat, coming to a session like in our temple also on Mondays we have yoga classes, and do some exercises, postures, and go back. That's not what really yoga is. The word yoga, in one of the places, Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that be steadfast in yoga, O Arjuna. Perform your duty and abandon all attachment to success or failure. Such evenness of mind is called yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Evenness of mind. It's the art of re-establishing our relationship. And the art of re-establishing relationship with the Lord is not a momentary activity. It's not like in one moment you turn on the switch, the lights come on. Like that, I'll just do one moment, I'll turn on this thing, and my relationship with the Lord will be established. No, it's a continuous process. It's an awakening. It's an uncovering of the true self. It takes time. That's why this is called a process. And when somebody takes up to this process, extremely powerful. Sometimes people come, they will have no understanding of what spiritual life is. They may not even completely appreciate that we are spirit, soul, eternal, part and parcel of the Lord. It may not even strike them. Yet they feel peaceful. They feel that, the time spent, some even new people, when you talk to them, we felt happy. Yes, true, because it is This knowledge is meant to elevate us. This knowledge is meant to give us proper direction. And that process of yoga, that process of unraveling, uncovering our true self, can be done in the most simplest form in this age of Kali. It is by chanting the names of the Lord. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Embrace this. There is no other way to tell people. What else you can say? You can beg. You can tell them, please do this every time. The power of this transcendental sound cannot be spoken enough. And how much we underestimate it, how much we belittle it in our lives. The more you chant this transcendental sound vibration, non-different from the Lord, filled with all the potency of the Lord, all this, the fog of ignorance, the coverings that we have will get unraveled. And hence, we can achieve a state called bhava. The word that Krishna uses in Bhagavad Gita is called Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tyajate Ante Kalevaram Tam Tam Eveti Konteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavita. What consciousness you are having at the time of death? What consciousness? It's not about just I have to remember the Lord at the time of death. No, forget about remembering the Lord. What is it that your mind is invested in? What are your thought process? What do you want? You have still unfulfilled desires. You have still so many material goals. And you are thinking that how will I fulfill them? Who is there? Who's going to take care of all these things? Then my consciousness is deeply imbued, soaked, absorbed, and it's like that. It's absorbed in materialistic things. That state I will get in the next life. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajate ante kalevaram tam tam eveti konteya sada tad bhava bhavita. So if somebody takes up to this process of chanting, gets himself purified of this ignorance, this materialistic desires, and the idea of chasing after these desires, and remaining steadfast, then he will remember the Lord. Like in the 15th chapter, today we were reading that verse, 15th chapter, 6th verse, Krishna says, when you hear about the description of the spiritual world, you should feel captivated by that information. For some of us, it doesn't even bother. Oh, spiritual world, what? Yes, spiritual, there's a world which exists beyond this. We were eternally present there. And we have been, some reason, some desires that we cultivated, we are here. Purusa Prakriti Stoyi, and we're there in the midst of material nature. But we can purify ourselves, we can go back, and we will be permanently free from this birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Dosano, Darshanam will be completely free. We should be captivated by that. We should develop a yearning, a strong desire to go back. But we don't, because our desire to go back, we don't get captivated. We get captivated by some new discoveries here. Something has come up, some other news episode, whatever, some web series or something. And that our mind gets captured by that. Some match, something, all those titillations, they captivate us. And that leads to more and more entanglement. So that is why, if somebody gets a spiritual awakening, takes to this process of yoga, which means re-establishing our relationship with the Lord, endeavors in that direction in a steadfast way, but natural that he will try to remember the Lord. And if he remembers the Lord, he'll go back to him at the end of his life. That is the sum and substance of this remembering the Lord at the time of death. I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or any comments. Thoughts.
So, how do we separate the mind and what is it that is observing?
Observing means not taking any action again about them. These thoughts are coming. Be aware of it. I have read it in some place. They call it as a state of float. Today also we were reading, as long as the spirit soul is there in the body floats. Like we float in water. So in the state of float means there may be ripples, there may be waves which are coming underneath you, but you are not getting affected. You're learning to navigate. You are just floating. So like that, when these thoughts or these desires are coming, or when I'm attaching when I'm investing my thinking to those emotions, they feel very strong. They become very this thing in my mind. I need to fulfill them. I need to do something about them. Don't give that to them. They are just thoughts, and that is not your thought. These are coming in the mind. You need not take any action about them. Just learn to observe. Like what he's saying, apuryamanam achala pratishtam, like that ocean, incessant flow of water is coming, but it is not getting affected. Then you can attain the state of peace rather than somebody who's trying to strive to fulfill those desires.
And that is through the practice, because the practical example what I want to give is like when in some meetings or sometimes we get into arguments and it escalates.
See, basically what happens is, we live in I keep telling this, we live in a very, sleepful state. Sleepful state means we're not aware, we're not living in an intelligent way that I'm a spirit soul. These are all materialistic thoughts. My mind is producing materialistic desires, materialistic body. These are coverings. So when you live in a wakeful state, when you're getting affected, maybe you're thinking, "Arey, why did I get affected by the thoughts?" But that is a after effect. When you live in a wakeful state, when those thoughts, emotions are coming, you will not invest your, what is the right word? You will not invest your energy in them. You'll observe them. You'll just allow them to come and go, but you will not do any of this thing. Exactly. You will not give your power to them. Because we are investing our power in them, they become powerful. And then we feel helpless, we feel weak. I have to fulfill this, I couldn't do this, and I feel unhappy, he didn't. All kinds of things happen. No, just keep them at distance. And this is possible, all these things is possible by just taking up to this process of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Very powerful. We'll stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.